for a really, really long time, from around about 3.4 million BC to as early as 2000 BC. But the important thing is, during the Stone Age, there were loads of amazing animals. Many of these are called Megafauna, really big, giant animals. Lots of them we can see today, things like reindeer, elks, bears, but some of them have gone extinct. We've ranked them in size from smallest to most supermassivest. Hit the intro, let's see what they are.
So the first animal on our megafauna list are castaroides. What are castaroides, I hear you say? Giant beavers. Now, castaroides, I like to call them a mega rodent because they were huge, about the same size as a black bear. Yes, 2 meters long, fully grown, from their nose to the base of their tail. Yeah, that doesn't even include their long tail at the end. So if they were stood on their hind feet, they'd be about the same size as a fully grown human male. Now, although a giant beaver is called a giant beaver, there are a couple of major differences between modern day beavers and the giant beavers. So, for starters, the first difference would be its tail. Now, if you're familiar with a modern species of beaver, you'll know that beavers have these big paddle-like tails, very flat and wide. But giant beavers were very different. They had a very skinny, thin, long tail, a bit like a rat's tail, if you will. The second major difference is those teeth. Beavers are well known for having big square teeth. They're a bit like little pickaxes, and they use them to chop up wood. In fact, they eat wood. But the giant beavers from our megafauna list didn't eat wood. In fact, scientists believe that they existed on marine-based plants. And because of this, they didn't need those big rectangular teeth that beavers stereotypically have. Instead, they had thinner teeth that were curved round. Again, a bit like rat's teeth. So what I'm saying is that actually this giant beaver may well have been more of a giant rat. But let's face it, a giant beaver is a lot less terrifying a thought than having a giant rat. Ugh.
Now we've got the Smilodon, or the Sabre Tooth Tiger. Back when I was a little giddlywink wearing knee-high socks, my favourite Stone Age animal was the Smilodon. They're awesome, with those distinctive, massive canine teeth at the front of their jaws. These got really, really long, around about 25 centimetres in length, and they were razor sharp. They could slice through flesh. But weirdly, scientists now know that they weren't that tough. In fact, if one of these big teeth got stuck in bone, it could even snap. So saber-toothed tigers, there were around about 100 different species, each one of them lean, mean, hunting machines, covered in muscle, super fast and super strong. If you were a hunter trying to hunt a Smilodon, make sure you bring a lot of your friends, because you'll rarely find a Smilodon on their own. Thanks to many of their fossils found buried together, modern scientists now believe they hunted in packs. So you're never going to find just one Smilodon, you're going to find a whole load of killing machines. Ooh-ah.
The next animal on our list is a cave lion. Now, cave lions, yes, they're very similar to modern day lions, but they're bigger. They were often depicted on cave paintings as having a little fluffy collar around their necks and having lots of stripes, and modern day scientists believe that this is likely to be a very accurate representation of what a cave lion actually looked like. Now, the name cave lion is a little misleading. You see, cave lions didn't actually live in caves. It was a bit of a confusion. You see, cave lions are often found, their remains, their bones, the fossils, are often found in caves. But it turns out that's not actually where they lived. Instead, it's more of a representation of the fact that they were opportunistic hunters. They like to sneak up on cave bears. Yes, there are cave bears as well, also very similar to bears, just absolutely enormous. Now, cave bears, they did live in caves, and just like bears today, they would hibernate over the winter months. Now, these cave lions, they were kind of sneaky, and they liked to sneak up on those cave bears while they were hibernating, just to have themselves what they thought was an easy meal. But it turns out that that very rarely worked well for those cave lions, and instead of getting themselves an easy meal, those cave lions would end up getting killed by the cave bears.
Now we've got the Procopter Don, which is a fancy Latin word for giant kangaroo. And they looked, well, kind of like you'd expect they'd look, like kangaroos. But giant! They were massive, around about 2.7, 2.8 meters tall. That's around about the size of an especially large ostrich. They were incredibly heavy too. They weighed over 500 pounds, which is the same weight as two particularly large, sweaty, professional wrestlers fighting in a tag team. In fact, they were so heavy that the giant kangaroo couldn't bounce. It just had to walk, lumber from foot to foot, because its feet only had one giant toe on each one, a bit like a horse's hoof. What an amazing creature.
The next animal on our list is a Megalonyx, or a giant ground sloth. Now, if you've seen a sloth today, you'll know they're quite small, sleepy animals who don't really move very much, and they live in trees. But the giant sloth, or the Megalonyx, was so large that it couldn't actually climb trees, and so they were dubbed ground sloths because they lived on the ground. Now, the largest species of ground sloth could grow to an enormous 3 meters and weigh up to 1,000 kilograms. And they were named Megalonyx after their large claws. Yes, indeed, Megalonyx literally means large claws. In fact, Thomas Jefferson, yes, that Thomas Jefferson, the guy who went on to be the American president, he was so confused when he found this fossil of a giant claw that he thought it must have come from a fearsome creature like a lion. But it turned out, no, it was just from a sloth, albeit a giant sloth. And these claws were so big because they helped the giant sloth to scrape the various bits of foliage from very tall branches of trees. Yes, it was a herbivore. It wasn't even a terrifying meat-eating creature.
Finally, we have got the woolly mammoth. I think we can all have a good idea of what a woolly mammoth looks like. You've seen loads of them in various different picture books. They're like an elephant. In fact, they share a lot of the same DNA. Scientists now believe one day we might even be able to clone a woolly mammoth. So you'll be able to see a woolly mammoth in real life with your own eyeballs. They're also really big. They stand at around 3 meters tall, covered in thick long hair, and also with a really thick layer of fat. So they're resistant to the cold and also resistant to enthusiastic human hunters. This is gonna be a difficult creature to be having for your tea. Now, most of these Stone Age animals that we've spoken about died out around about 10,000 years ago. Lots of different reasons. Change in climate meant they no longer had their natural habitat. But also a big factor is us, humans. We got so good at hunting, thanks to our amazing brains coming up with all sorts of different inventions like bows and arrows, that we could hunt any animal, no matter how big or strong or tough it was. Also, we were hunting all their prey, so some of the predators just didn't have anything left to eat. The woolly mammoth, though, is a little different. That died out around about 4,000 years ago. A small population survived on an island, Wrangel Island. They were there, happy and stable, for many, 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 many years. What changed? Well, around about the same time those woolly mammoths died out is the same time human hunters first arrived on Wrangel Island. Coincidence? I'll let you decide.
And that's it from our list of megafauna from the Stone Age. Now, this is just a tiny fraction of the megafauna that existed. There are loads of them, and they're absolutely fascinating creatures. So why not have more of a research yourself? If you want to find out more from us, feel free to subscribe and find out more information from the various different parts of history.